Hello and welcome everybody to the course of Engineering Thermodynamics. Myself, Dr. Sandeep Ghosh from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, JIS College of Engineering, Kalyani. And this course, Engineering Thermodynamics, is applicable for the BTech undergraduate students, mostly in third semester. And this course will be going through separate modules. Today, in this introductory lecture, all the different modules will be touched to some extent. And another important thing is the mechanical engineering has three important limbs. Number one is mechanics, second is thermodynamics, and third is manufacturing. So, without the understanding of thermodynamics, a lot of different subjects, application subjects, will not be understood properly. So, in this course, we'll be going through different laws of thermodynamics, and we'll be going to the deeper knowledge on that, and we'll try to understand how they are applied. And let's start.
My contacts details are also given in case if you need to have any query. If you have any query, then you can also mail me. And also I have I'm in Facebook, and you can also connect me there. Separately you can send messages, or you can also put your queries in the group. So this course is naming Engineering Thermodynamics, which shows the basics. The course code is ME301, and the contact detail is 3 credits and having 3 classes per week. And the basic prerequisite is the physics 10 plus 2 level. The objective of this course is to learn about work and heat interaction and the balance of energy between the system and its surrounding, and based on various laws of thermodynamics, and understand the difference between high grade and low grade energies. Basically, we want to know about especially about the heat and work interaction details, and how exactly the system and surrounding is related with the heat and work transfer through various laws, how they're defined. And ultimately our primary the motto is to differentiate the high grade and low grade energies. Now the course outcomes, yeah, after the successful completion of this course, the learners should be able to learn the interrelationship of heat and work and draw an energy balance. It's very important for any system. The first thing, to draw an energy balance. Secondly, the understanding of second law is very important. I hope the students will be able to understand the second law limitations of energy conversion and differentiate between realistic and unrealistic thermodynamic systems, because at different places engineers are there to innovate things, innovate engines, innovate different come up with the different ideas and modifications of an engine. So it is very much necessary to have some kind of validation, and second law fortunately gives you that kind the laws of validation and the direction of validation, so you can do that. Thirdly, it is intended that the students will be carrying out the entropy and exergy analysis of thermal systems. We will be going in detail of that so that you can understand what is called entropy and exergy, and evaluate the sustainability of a practical equipment in industry. This is very important to have an exergy analysis to know how long some equipment or some system which is developed by an engineer will work, will be useful. And finally, the evaluation of the performance. That's the last course outcome, the evaluation of performance of energy conversion devices using utility thermodynamic cycles. So different use of the cycles in practical will be having a very small interface of the cycles at the last of this course. So I would like to start with the famous quote of Mr. Albert Einstein. The classical thermodynamics is the only physical theory of universal content which I am convinced will never be overthrown. Basically, the word, the quote is a part of a bigger quote, which actually says that uh, Albert Einstein was convinced, so much convinced about the thermodynamics and as well as the relativity. This is the two most important theories he found to be the most practically useful in defining the universe, in understanding the work of the universe, how it actually really works in details. It can be understood by thermodynamics. In one of the discussions with Albert Einstein, actually Ludwig Boltzmann and another scientist also said similar words. By the way, Boltzmann said the thermodynamics, correctly interpreted, does not just allow Darwinian evolution, rather it favors it. It means that if you really understand thermodynamics, you can find out the evolution, the life, how the life works, how the evolution has happened. You can still relate with that, and you can find out that the nature, the work of the nature, the same thing actually is repeated. The same laws are actually working behind everything happening, and the evolution also follows the same rule. So that is the depth of the thermodynamics that people have understood, the researchers have understood, the great people. Now in this slide you can see that thermodynamics creates a basis of lot of different subjects, like heat transfer, like energy conversion and management, like the internal combustion engines, which is very much popular as an automobile sector for mechanical engineers, the gas turbines, which goes with the aircrafts and the engines for aircrafts, and ships, and refrigeration and air conditioning, which is itself a huge industry. Without air conditioning you can hardly think of staying at this moment, at this summer time especially. And the power plant engineering is another huge chapter, huge section of understanding. Everything that is discussed here, I mean shown in this slide, is having a very important basic structure with the engineering thermodynamics. So it can be said that all the other things around of engineering thermodynamics can be together called applied thermodynamics. So let's move on. Today we will be discussing a little bit of everything, because it's introductory class, and the syllabus, I will be just reviewing the syllabus for in the first day. So in the module 1, what we have is the fundamentals. In the fundamentals we'll be discussing with the system and control volume, the property, state, process, exact and inexact differentials. So this is the first important thing to know, understand, is the existence of a system, how to consider something of a topic of interest, to how to take it is the name of system. We actually consider anything and everything as a system in thermodynamics, and which also obviously have a boundary, because if you want to concentrate on a certain part of anything happening, then of course you need a boundary. Without a boundary you cannot make a system defined. So we define a boundary for the system, and of course outside the boundary each and everything possible on a universe is a surrounding. So that's a generic understanding of system, and we'll go in details of that in the actual chapter. Here you can see that the three types of system in general is there. One is called the closed system, another is called open system, and another is called isolated system. We'll go in details of that. It all generally it's depends on the exchange of mass and energy on which things are differentiated, and so we'll go in details of that in as the whole course progresses. In this matter we'll be trying to understand the basic view of the thermodynamic view of looking at a single matter or a system, that is the microscopic and macroscopic viewpoint. This is very important initially to differentiate thermodynamics into two parts. One is the microscopic view, another is called macroscopic view. In the microscopic view we are concerned in the molecular activities, the what is happening at the molecular level, how exactly different kind of activities are happening out there. But in a macroscopic world, what we really perceive, the temperature, pressure, everything that we can measure, we value that, and we mostly operate on average values from the molecular level. From the molecular level, whatever is the gross product is coming up, that we consider as in a macroscopic thermodynamics. And this classical thermodynamics also we call it, this macroscopic world, the macroscopic thermodynamics is something that we are dealing with right now. In the microscopic thermodynamics, which is also known as the statistical thermodynamics, is also understood in a different perspective, and it's further it is included in a different domain or in master's degree. In this place, a few very important things will be coming up, like the paths, the processes, the exact and inexact differentials. How would you differentiate an path and process that will come up? Like any job that is given to you might need to have some kind of path to do. So all the time, whatever you are doing is having some kind of path. You're following some kind of path, right? And many paths can be properly defined by the set of rules, by a set of rules, and many paths cannot be defined properly because it may be random. So whatever it be, we generally see that you start from one point and you end at another point. And this one process, this one path, this one process, or this one change of state that we generally call it, is can be done in many multiple ways. Like if I want to start from one state to the another state, or one point to another point, if I just want to go, I can take a very straight path that is visible in as a green line in the diagram. And you can also take a long path of your nature, of maybe from for your convenience. If it is a longer path you take, just like the blue line shown here, you will take time. It will take time. It may take a huge amount of time, but you'll reach the same point again. So the process, the path, these two things will come up, and we'll try to define or differentiate also how these things are coming up. Also in this chapter, we'll be going for the demonstration of work. There is a thermodynamic definition of work. We'll go for the examples, and the most important work that I need to tell you is the displacement work will be hugely explained, and why we call it as a path dependent thing. Whenever we talk about a work, first of all, it comes in our mind that generally we want to have a force. We have a force, and this on the direction of force something is happening. So the way the Newton defined the force, the same way thermodynamics also defines the force. It's very similar. And in this diagram also you can try to find out that same thing. If force is acting as a blue arrow on some piston having an area A, which is there in a cylinder, having certain pressure of P. So against pressure P, if you are giving some force F, then of course there is some work that is happening if the piston is moved. So if you have a piston here, just like this, and this piston is moved by this force, then of course some thermodynamic work is happening. Generally thermodynamic work is said when only when the work is conveniently transferred to a raise of weight through a pulley. It is a very generic way to define thermodynamic work, and it's very interesting to explore what are the different type of works which ultimately ends up to a raise of weight. So we'll explore that in the examples. And can see this figure where different paths are shown from for whenever you are trying to reach from point number 1 to point number 2. So two different paths are there, path A and path B, and of course these two paths have different type of work, different amount of work involved. If you go to a straight path, of course you might have some incurred some work, and if you using path B, you might have a different work. If you're working on a path A, then you may have a different work altogether. So it's a path dependent thing. I will explore later. There are all other different type of works. As you can see that the displacement work is there, the that we talked about, the electrical work is there. By when the electricity is passing over a resistor, over the wire, inside a wire, still some work is going on which can be measured by V into I. The shaft work is there, which is very excessively important for in thermodynamics, which actually defines by T into W, the torque into angular velocity. And then you have the elastic work, then you have a stretching work of a liquid film. Even if there is a magnetic activity happening on, still that can be a magnetic work happening. So there are a lot of different type of works which will be explained. Then we'll come to the next chapter. In the module 2, we'll be talking about the temperature and fast law of thermodynamics. In the firstly, we'll talk on temperature. We'll talk on the equilibrium. It's very important to understand the equilibrium and define the zeroth law of thermodynamics. It will be an interesting part. where the zeroth law, why it is called the zeroth law, everything will be explained. And equilibrium is a very very important word to everyone. Whenever we just think about equilibrium, we just think that probably nothing is going to happen because everything is in equilibrium. So if we just think in a reverse way, what we'll find out that if something is happening in front of you, then of course there is not there is an absence of equilibrium, there is a non-equilibrium. So I will just say for right for this time being that at least keep in mind that everything is happening because of non-equilibrium. So because of non-equilibrium only things are happening around you, and if everything becomes in equilibrium, nothing will exist, nothing will happen. So non-equilibrium to equilibrium, equilibrium to non-equilibrium, this is a continuous process of nature, it keeps on happening. That is the reason of so many things happening around you. So here is a picture, very simple picture that is given. It's a matter of heat flow. A hot body and cold body is shown, and after some time, if you see that the temperature was higher in one case and in the lower in another case, and ultimately you will find out the temperature will be same if they are put together, kept close together. Ultimately, they will come in equilibrium. This is a very common understanding of equilibrium. And we'll come to zeroth law later, where we'll be understanding thermodynamic equilibrium, how it is mentioned, how it is developed. So how three things can be in equilibrium when things are in equilibrium with each other, like A and B, or C and A. How A, B, C become in equilibrium, we'll understand, and what is the practical implication of that is more important to know. uh, from the understanding of zeroth law, which is very very important, is the understanding of the temperature scales, how the temperature scales are developed. We'll go for that. What was the primitive methods of temperature measurement, how the temperature measurement started, how the thermometric property was defined, that will be discussed, and ultimately through that we'll go to the temperature scales. In the module 2, that is the this another important part is will be the first law, the first law of thermodynamics, of course. For cyclic and non-cyclic processes we will go through, and concept of total energy, that E, the demonstration of energy, that is as a property, is very really very important word. Why the E, energy, is thought as a property, although generally you will consider it as a heat transfer, as an energy transfer thing, but how the energy is also called a property, that is really some interesting part. We'll go for various modes of energy, how the types of energy, will define internal energy and enthalpy mostly. To talk about the first law of thermodynamics, just to introduction, you see that it is a conservation of energy principle, where we talk about the energy is never created nor destroyed. Everybody knows that, only transferred from one source to another. This is a common understanding of conservation of energy, which we talk in in a mode of heat transfer and work transfer. Basically, everything happening on Earth can be approximated as a heat transfer or work transfer. If you think deeply, what is really happening, then you can of course relate them either for one heat transfer or work transfer. So whatever be the energy transformation that is coming in front of you, it may be chemical energy to kinetic energy, like the ice cream that you can find out that the baby has taken, and after that he's energized to do something. So basically the chemical energy has come as another energy within himself, and the kinetic energy by which he is doing something. You can think about the light energy in this light as which is there, used as a photosynthesis, and ultimately is creating a food for people, or the food for the plant itself. So energy can be transformed in many ways, and it is very very important for us, for the students, to understand the energy balance. So first law will ultimately give you a balance of energy, and ultimately the equations are very important to derive, such that we can analyze heat balance for many systems. Next, I have given some examples of the first law of thermodynamics, where heat and work transfer is happening and the basic laws are derived. And you can see that the law is given as Q is equal to a change of energy U1 minus U2 plus W, or you can write it in a different manner. If you talk about E, the internal energy, then E2 minus E1 is equal to Q minus W. In a very short form, if I just tell you, it is just like if you are giving some energy to some system, and you are just watching what is happening, you will definitely find out that some part of that energy will be converted to work. And if there is no scope of work, then the whole will be changing the internal energy of that substance. So it's very simple. If you're giving heat, basically if you're giving heat to any substance or any system, you can expect some amount of work to be done, and with that there will be definitely some part which is increasing its internal energy. If there is no work, then the whole thing will increase the internal energy. So that is a very very basic form of energy balance, which is said as first law of thermodynamics. But we'll go much deeper when in the actual chapter. The next thing in the next chapter is the pure substance, the module 3. In this pure substance chapter, why it is so useful? Because the whatever laws of thermodynamics that we are going through or will be going through in different chapters, whatever laws, whatever equations will be deriving, and everything that will be coming up, are actually applicable for pure substances. So it's very very important to know what is a pure substance. So the definition of pure substance is important. The ideal gas and gas mixtures will be also coming up. The real gases and real gas mixture, the compressibility charts, all these things needs to be discussed. But pure substance, if I talk about, of course, generally we can think about pure substance as element or compound. These two things, either it may be an element or it can be a compound. These two things are pure substances. Generally, we differentiate matter as a pure substance or a mixture. A pure substance which is having a single component element is a pure substance, and even if there are two elements, it need to be a compound. Even if it is a compound, still it is having a same composition. So very important word is composition. If the composition is uniform throughout the volume of the mixture, throughout the volume of the element, then you can call it as a pure substance. And if you talk about mixtures, which is generally thought as a impure substance, and it can be homogeneous and it can be heterogeneous mixture. Most of the time, if the mixture is a homogeneous, still in some cases we can think as a pure substance, just like a water and water vapor mixture. We consider them as a pure substance because water and water vapor mixes up so well that they become so homogeneity, there is a homogeneity achieved. And if it is homogeneous, then we can surely call it as a pure substance. But all from a chemical background, although mixtures are impure, but still for in thermodynamics we call the homogeneous mixtures also sometimes a pure substance. But impure, the heterogeneous mixtures which are not properly uniformly mixed up, that cannot be considered as a pure substance. Like if you think about the air as a gas and air as a liquid, if you try to mix it up, it will never mix up. So ultimately, if you even if you have forcefully mixed up these two things, a liquid nitrogen and a gaseous nitrogen, you try to mix up, they will not mix at all. If you try to mix up water and oil, it will not mix up. So these kind of mixtures which are heterogeneously mixing are not pure substances. Like there are a few examples of pure substance. You can see that chemical elements like tin, like sulfur, like diamond, as a element. As a compound, you can have sugar, you have water, baking soda, the crystals like salt, the protein crystals or copper sulfate crystals. So many of examples are there that you can refer. And in the gas part, we'll talk about the ideal gas, their properties, how they're related with each other, what are the important aspects to be understood, that we'll discuss in the ideal gas chapter. More in the pure substance chapter will be the properties of pure substance, which is very very important. In the properties, we'll be talking about the phase change in the two-phase system, how the constant temperature and constant pressure lines are coming up, how how a pure substance behaves. Without understanding that, we cannot go for the application of a thermodynamic system. So a thermodynamic system, whenever we talk about the application part, we need to be very very careful to know before that you understand the pure substance and its behavior properly. The properties of pure substance is another important word to be spelled today, and you must understand the properties of pure substance to go for the application. So here I have shown a small transformation from liquid to gas. You can see a liquid that is coming as a gas in a TV plot. It's a temperature volume plot where a saturation temperature is shown. So we'll be also understanding what is the saturation temperature, what is the saturation pressure, why what is called a saturated liquid, a saturated vapor, and what is a superheated vapor, what is a compressed liquid. It's a lot of things to understand, and in detail we'll try to understand all this behavior in a PVT surface, as well as in a PV diagram, in TV diagram, PT diagram, TS diagram, HS diagram. There are so many different type of plots that you can make, the different type of property diagrams that you can make through understand to analyze a system. So a system is not only analyzed on in one single diagram. A lot of different type of diagrams are needed to understand a system, behavior of a system. So it will be mostly analytical, but very important to analyze things. Now also in this part we'll be going through the constant pressure and constant temperature heating of water, and the definition of saturation states, PVT surface, the use of steam tables, very important, the use of steam tables. Here you can see one table which is called Mollier chart. So the saturated table, superheated table, identification of states, determination of properties using the Mollier diagram, which is given here in the right side. It will be discussed in detail, and it is very important to understand, otherwise it will be very difficult to solve complex problems. In the module 4, if you just see the first law for flow process, this will be the another part of the first law, where the derivation of general energy equation will be there for a control volume. Steady state, steady flow processes will be coming up, including throttling and many other processes like steady flow devices. So steady flow devices and steady flow processes will be there, where it is very important to know the different applications of steady flow process and unsteady flow process also, like the bottle filling process, which is given as a picture. So the examples of steady and unsteady flow system, both system will be there, and it will be understood in such a manner that we can analyze it and we can apply the basic law of first law as for a flow process. The first law for a flow process is will be coming up directly from the first law for a simple system or a closed system, and we'll derive the steady flow energy equation in this chapter, which is applicable for a steady flow system like this. And an unsteady flow also, basically steady flow is a specific type of situation, which but generally what we initially calculate or initially describe is an unsteady flow process where the things are not steady. The word steady is very important to know. The steady means if the constraints, the temperature, pressure, everything is not changing with time. It's very important to understand. If the things are changing with time, it is unsteady. If it is constant with time at a particular place, then it is called steady. So both the cases, whether it is a steady flow or unsteady flow, on the basis of that, lot of different type of applications has come up, and we'll try to explain most of them which are having engineering importance. Now coming to the module 5, that is the second law of thermodynamics. In this module 5, we will talk on the definitions of direct and reverse heat engines, the definitions of thermal efficiency and coefficient of performance, COP. We'll talk on the Kelvin, Planck and Clausius statements and many other things. So it's very important why we talk on the second law of thermodynamics. You have this quote, you can see it's a discussion between the Einstein's fellow scientist and colleague Arthur Eddington, who is saying that if you who is saying to Einstein like this, if your theory is found to be against the second law of thermodynamics, I can give you no hope. There is nothing for it but to collapse in deepest humiliation. This very word, this very sentence, if you just can concentrate, you can understand the importance of second law of thermodynamics. Second law of thermodynamics actually gives you the reality check of each and everything you innovate, each and everything you design. So this actually gives you direction of reality, whether it's a real thing or unreal thing. So limitation of design or limitation of reality comes up from this second law of thermodynamics. Now, on a basis in the second law of thermodynamics, what we generally discuss is about the heat engine. A heat engine is very simple in concept, where you have a source having a higher temperature, you may have a sink of a lower temperature, and you put an engine inside that, which is taking heat from the heat source or hot source, and it is giving heat, or it is rejecting it to the cold sink, and ultimately you are producing some work. So if you're producing some work, then only you call it as a heat engine. So the definition of heat engine comes up in the second law of thermodynamics, and how the heat engine can be also converted to a reversed heat engine to have a different purpose of heat transfer rather than producing work. Rather, you can give work to the system, and it will become a reversed engine if it can transfer heat from a cold temperature to hot temperature. So just the reversed engine will be considered as a refrigeration element. So many important things will come up, like Kelvin Planck and Clausius statement, and the efficiency, the thermal efficiency, which is a very important word for every engine. Without the definition of efficiency engine, you cannot evaluate an engine. In the second law of thermodynamics, we'll talk on the reversible processes, the internal and external irreversibility. We'll talk on the Carnot cycle, the absolute temperature scale. It's I will just give you a brief on the reversible and irreversible process. It's just like something that you know and you don't know. Whenever if you know something, of course you don't need to ask people, and if you already have known it, then of course you don't need to have many questions on that. But before you know that, you try to exploit it in many ways. If you don't have and proper information of a process, you'd like to think it in a different path, actually, from your own understanding. So from one point to the other point, if you want to go, then there can be a lot of different paths by which you can adopt. But one of the paths will be the path by which you will incur the minimum work, probably, or another path will be probably having the maximum work, uh, or one path will be there which is probably the in other consideration may be very ideal, and the other paths are not that much ideal for you. So from the heat and work consideration, heat and work transfer consideration, we will try to define how a process becomes reversible, how it becomes irreversible. But in a general sense, you should understand that reversibility is a kind of idleness which needs a huge amount of time to achieve, and it's a very slow thing. In the other hand, if you talk about the irreversible process, that is mostly the general processes that we generally go through in everyday life. Whatever processes we actually check out in everyday happening around us is irreversible, because you cannot come exactly to the initial point again. Once it is happening, once it is gone, then of course something is lost, which ultimately will never take you back to the same point. So we'll talk in details of the reversibility and irreversibility uh, in that class. We'll talk on the Carnot cycle, and we'll also see the spontaneity of processes, which actually is delineated by the second law of thermodynamics, which says that how you actually come from a highly ordered solid, which is a very low probability, to a spontaneously coming up to a disordered liquid, which is having a higher probability. So it's no it's like a disorder, how nature comes from order to disorder, how easily it happens. That is the basis of that is something of a really outcome of thermodynamics to understand. You can see that person is throwing the bricks, and you can find out the bricks, it's very unlikely to have the bricks to happen or to be oriented like this. As you can see, it an improbable way for bricks to fall, and a more probable way for the bricks to fall is like the right side. So it is very understandable that uh, a second law of thermodynamics ultimately gives you the reality, the how the real things happen. That direction is actually given in mathematically by the second law of thermodynamics. We'll understand that. In the module 6, we'll talk on the entropy and its application. In the module 6, will come up with the Clausius inequality, the definition of entropy, which is another very important word. Yeah, I've given you a haze of the entropy, so this is a word of real interest to me, and I hope you will also get interest. The entropy is something, and the word entropy itself is something that which defines the existence of earth, and it actually can limit the existence also. It gives you direction key where the whole thing is going up, and when exactly it is going to end. So to understand entropy, we should understand in the second law first, then only we'll get the entropy definition of entropy, the demonstration of entropy as a property, and evaluation of entropy for solid, liquid and ideal gases, gas mixtures we'll go through for various processes. Then we come to the determination of entropy from steam tables, the principle of increase of entropy, how the entropy is increasing, we'll talk on that. Just like the order to disorder, the entropy of the ice, you can see that it's less, but if it is becoming water, it can flow and it becomes disoriented very easily, so the entropy of the water is higher. So uh, just like this, if you just check the solid, the entropy of the solid is less, in the liquid it is higher, in the gas it's more higher. So of course it's very difficult to say that it's very hard to say that why it is happening at this point, but once you go through the whole thing, I definitely will understand why the solid and liquid and gases will come up and their relationship will come up. These two words are very important. ds is equal to dq by t and ds is greater or equal to 0. These two relationships will come up, and you will understand the importance of these two relationships in this deep of the lecture when the lectures will be ongoing. And the last, I would like to say that in the entropy, the last, it will actually end with this discussion of entropy of an isolated system, where we'll find out that entropy is going to a maximum, after which the equilibrium state will come up, everything will stop, and ultimately the entropy will come to a zero again. So in the entropy chapter, we'll go through a lot of different understanding of nature, how the nature is working, and where exactly we are going. So it's very crucial thing. In the module 6, we'll go for the application of entropy, and we'll go through the irreversibility and availability part, availability function for systems and control volumes undergoing the different processes, lost work. So irreversibility and availability is that uh, is another important thing. Generally people ask about what is availability. It's not a very simple term to discuss, but you need a complete understanding of entropy. It is a complete understanding of second law to understand the availability. And the availability chapter, the availability function for systems and control volumes undergoing different processes we will go through. And most importantly we will go for the lost work. On a brief note, if I talk about the availability, it is just the useful work that is there in a system, and we need to calculate that how much of useful work is there at a certain pressure and temperature of a system. It is generally understood that whenever you are coming in equilibrium with the surrounding, you are actually at a dead state, you do not have anything to do. But whenever you are really far from the environment, if you're far from the environment in terms of pressure, it can be a temperature in terms of pressure, higher pressure or lower pressure, higher temperature or lower temperature, you can find out that you are having um, some work capacity, the capacity of work will be higher. So basically the reversibility and this availability will talk about the capacity of work for a system, and how much if real efficiency is there by for a system, that will be discussed in that. And on this note, second law analysis will come up, which will ultimately give you the real efficiency of a system. Although there is one efficiency called the first law efficiency, will have another efficiency called the second law efficiency, which actually indicates the sustainability of the system. So the sustainability of the system is also very important to know, and that will ultimately give you the direction of a process on the happening, and the ultimately it will give you the real evaluation of a system. So in a generic way, we can have an input output relationship in the form of efficiency, just like it's shown in 85% in case of oil furnace, in 100% for an electric heater, 300% for an heat pump. We'll explain that how it happens. But if you talk about exergetic efficiency with the second law efficiency, if we talk about, you will find out it's 4%, 5% and 15%. It means that it's the second law efficiency, the sustainability factor is very crucial to understand this phenomena properly, to judge whether the one system will be useful for a longer run, and ultimately decide what is useful in the longer run. I mean, what is useful for the society. In the module 7, the last module, will be dealing with the basic Rankine cycle, the basic Brayton cycle, the basic vapor compression cycle and comparison with Carnot cycle. Thermodynamic cycles in the module 7, we'll talk about the stack. We'll talk about a power plant. You can see that the basic Rankine cycle is there, which is basically an analysis of how the power plant works. The basic Breton cycle will talk about how a gas turbine works, and this will be the first implication of the first law and second law, how it is applied to the real cycles, and we'll go through that. Just like you can see here, it is expressed as an ideal Rankine cycle is shown here, which is comprised of a pump, a boiler, a turbine, and a pump, and the condenser. Sorry, the pump, boiler, turbine, and a condenser. You can see the condenser is here. It's not written here. It's this Q out. So there are two heat transfer inside, two heat transfer outside. There is one work done on the system in a pump, and work done by the turbine in the work is going out as a shaft work, and we are really producing a power. So thermodynamic cycles, one of the very important cycle is the Rankine cycle, which actually deals with the power plant, as you can see here. But we'll go in intricate details on how it is related to each other. And as I said, that the understanding of pure substance will be extremely important. Without the understanding of pure substance, you cannot analyze a cycle and make the diagram. Like this is a TS diagram, the temperature and entropy diagram, which is very important to analyze the whole thing and then calculate the efficiency of the cycle. Similarly, we'll also come up with the refrigeration cycle, where the schematic is given, the Carnot refrigerator, and TS diagram of reversed Carnot cycle is also given. We'll go on detail of this, how a cycle is reversed. Just like here in the previous diagram, you can see that in the previous diagram you have seen whatever the boiler, turbine, the condenser, and pump. If you just reverse it, it will become a reversed heat engine, or just a device. You can no longer call it an engine. Rather, it will become a device where the heat is transferred from a low temperature to a high temperature body. So that will become a refrigeration cycle instead of a power cycle. And this is another outlook of a refrigeration cycle, where you can find out that it is composed of a lot of different elements. And like an accumulator, there is a compressor, there is a condenser, there is a receiver, there is a throttling device, and so many things are out there. So with these teeny details, we'll be ending the syllabus of the engineering thermodynamics with a little bit of application we'll be going through at the last. And with this, ultimately we'll have a basic outlook of what is talked about in what will be talked about in this whole lecture, in the whole course. And I hope you have enjoyed the basic glimpse of the whole thing, the whole lecture. And in the next lecture, we'll start on the first module, and I hope you will be there. Thanks a lot for joining. Thank you.